Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Your Financial Compass, the show dedicated to helping you successfully navigate to and through your retirement. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and joining me in the studio are two members from Bulman Wealth Group. We have the founder, Chris Bulman, and financial advisor, Scott Bulman. We've got a great show for you today. You definitely want to listen up if you were born between the years of 1946 and 1980, because something known as the Great Wealth Transfer is underway, and it's presenting issues that we all need to be prepared for. Chris, Scott, always a joy to be here with both of you. What's going on in your world this week?
Well, he was born in 1945. Does that mean he shouldn't listen?
No, he wasn't. But no, this Great Wealth Transfer.
She asked you a question. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic.
You're fantastic.
Right. And young.
And young and vibrant. Yes, yes. Well, I mentioned those ages because that encompasses the baby boomer generation and Gen X, which is predominantly what this conversation will be focused on. But really, this affects all people, no matter your age and stage of life. Something known as the Great Wealth Transfer is underway. So let me first ask you guys this. What is it? What are we talking about?
Well, it is as you referenced, there's so many baby boomers, and as they're aging, they're getting to a point where at some point they'll be passing. I hate to sound all doom and gloom, but they're going to be passing away in these next 10, 15 years. And there's 84 trillion, with a T, not time out, but $84 trillion in accounts that they have that they're going to be passing on. That's a lot. And while that's a phenomenal thing,
with a T.
Yeah, there's a lot of taxes embedded and things to understand, and just like someone, maybe a kid that wasn't used to having money, or a child of one of these people, and they inherit, we've had these instances, they inherit several million. It's like, oh my gosh, this is all, like, where do I start? Where do I go? And it's a good problem to have, but it can present a problem when there's so much money transferring from generation.
Yeah, and we've been talking about this. We've been seeing it. I've been an advisor now for 2 weeks now.
No.
He's stayed up all night studying.
Like 23, 24 years now.
Yeah.
And we've seen for the last 10 to 15 years the baby boomers entering into retirement. 10,000 a day entering into retirement, transferring 401ks, IRAs, consolidating accounts, building their retirement plans.
Right.
And that's just what we do at Bulman Wealth Group, 10,000 a day.
Yeah.
So no, just kidding.
We're really busy.
But there are a lot of people moving into that phase, and now what we're beginning to see, and then you also have the Gen X, which will begin to move into that phase. But baby boomer generation, we still have, I think, 5 to 10 years of folks moving into retirement.
Yep.
And then, as Scott was saying, the death, we're already starting to see that. We have quite a few people now, let's say it could be in their 40s, 50s, 60s, that are now inheriting $1 million, $2 million, $5, $10 million from their parents that built the wealth, never spent it all, of course, and now it's passing down. So there's so many ways we can go, directions we can go with this conversation. What's important for you to understand if you're going to be a beneficiary or inherit some of this money. If you're 75 or 85 or 95 and you're wondering how do you talk to your family about what to do, there's a lot of conversations to be had. So we're going to talk about some of those today.
Yeah, for sure. There's so many different implications. And you know, we three are Generation X. And Gen X, like it or not, is entering the retirement red zone.
I'm the youngest of Generation X, I think. 1980.
I think you are. Yeah.
Sorry, Chris isn't involved.
Oh.
So just the two of us.
Well, and we have that weird in between. I mean, we're not that different in age. It's kind of, I forget what all
just
the
mostly
terms
maturity.
are.
We're a lot different in maturity, obviously.
Anyway, back to the subject at hand. The point is, with Gen X now entering the retirement red zone, which is hard to believe, that can create some serious implications if you're the one inheriting that wealth. When you're in your higher earning years, that can create a huge tax liability, especially with some of the changes that have happened with Secure 2.0 Act. So what are some of the implications from your point of view? What is it about this great wealth transfer that matters so much?
Well, I mean, that's debatable, but of what matters, it depends on the situation. But one thing that does come up a lot, as you referenced with the rule changes, is over the last few years, how IRA or 401k money is inherited has changed. So I'll spare the details on how it used to be. How it is now, though, is say John or Jane Doe, a parent passes away and leaves the money to their child, or say there's 2 kids, and they are splitting the inheritance. Well, that child has a 10-year window to liquidate those funds.
Right.
So if that's
has to be liquidated. Has to be within
if
10
you need
years.
it or not.
Yep.
And so say you get this $500,000 nest egg. Well, obviously, that's added on top of your regular income. So you're having to, withdraw this money each year, pay taxes on it. That's becoming more common, we're seeing, and the issue it obviously creates is a lot of these kids are inheriting it when they're in their prime earning years, late 40s, 50s, into their early 60s, and it's almost, you could argue it's creating more problems than it's solving in terms of the tax ramifications.
Yeah, and we've even seen a case over the past 2 years of someone that was not married and had no children, and so then they didn't list any beneficiaries. So now the estate is the beneficiary of the IRA.
Oof.
That's a 5-year rule. So now we have someone with, in this case, the total accounts were about $5 million, but just in the IRA that became a beneficiary estate IRA was, I think, around $2 million. So now this $2 million went ultimately to the estate, and then the person who's taking over the estate has to take all of that money out and pay taxes over a 5-year period.
Wow.
So you're talking about, with growth, you're talking about $40,000 to $60,000 a month that you have to take out.
Wow.
At the highest tax bracket.
Yep.
Pay taxes on it because the beneficiaries weren't set up correctly.
So really what we're talking about is this has to be planned for, whether you are part of the generation who's looking to pass on this wealth or you are part of the generation that is going to be on the receiving end of this wealth. There is huge implications for each set of circumstances, things that need to be planned for, especially from a tax perspective. And this is why we wanted to have this conversation today. I know that one of the things that you all do is you treat your clients like family, and you often facilitate these type of family discussions between generations to make sure that things are passed on, not only in the way that people want them to be passed on, but also in the most tax efficient manner possible. So if someone's out there watching and going, I think we need to have this conversation, we need to figure this out, either you're the children and you want to have this conversation with your aging parents or relatives, or you're the one passing on the wealth and you want to make sure that your beneficiaries are prepared, what would you say to someone watching today?
I would say, we certainly empathize in the fact that it's not a fun conversation to have, but we could even view us as an intermediary. It's like, I don't know how to talk to my kids, or I don't know how to talk to my parents about this. Well, maybe you could use someone to be the middle person to walk you through it.
Right.
And if this is a concern of yours, if you've never spoken with your kids or vice versa, then that's one of the reasons we can have a discussion. You can call the number below, you can scan the QR code, and just begin the discussion with us, and where could we offer any guidance or any kind of clarity to the situation. And maybe that isn't your concern, you have concerns about your investments or other things or taxes, then we can certainly have that discussion too. We call it our Financial Compass Review, and we would welcome the chance to chat with you about yours.
Wonderful. Scott?
Yeah, and I was just going to add on to that. If you're sitting there today and you're saying, I know my parents' estate is large, I know that we're probably the beneficiaries, but I don't know how it's going to work, and we haven't talked about it. You're not alone. There are a lot of people in your shoes, and there are a lot of people with the same questions. And so you can give us a call. And on the flip side, if you're a parent, and we see this a lot, if you're a parent and you're concerned about your kids, you don't know if they're doing the right things. They're married with kids. You don't know if they ever bought life insurance. You don't know if they ever did their trust. You've never asked them. You don't want to get into their business. You're also not alone. A lot of our clients are in that same boat. And so we can help bridge the gap between the parents, the children, the grandparents. Whoever needs to be involved. These conversations should be happening. And don't feel embarrassed or don't feel stupid because you think you're alone. There are so many people in this boat.
I know you handle this a lot, and you do it with such care and compassion. So I'm excited for more folks who are needing help with that to be able to get connected with you guys. So if this is resonating with you at all, we encourage you to reach out and schedule your complimentary Financial Compass review. You can do so by calling that number on the bottom of your screen, 888-970-4685. Or if you'd rather connect online, we've got you covered. If you simply pull out your smartphone, you can open up that camera app. Just point, click, and scan the QR code that you see there down in the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. That will take you over to a landing page, ask you a few short, simple questions, and then a member of the team from Bulman Wealth Group will reach out to connect with you to schedule your complimentary Financial Compass review that way as well. Don't go anywhere. We've got a lot more to talk about on this important subject of the great wealth transfer. Stay with us.
After college, I spent 8 years in active duty as an Army officer, as a captain in the Army. And I was really driven by this idea of service and serving something bigger than myself. And when I got out of the military, it was an easy transition to financial services as a financial advisor. There was a firm that was looking for military officers who had just gotten out. They had done a study, and the people that served in the military tended to do well in financial services. And once I got got into it, I just really fell in love with not only working with clients, but building portfolios, the strategic part, just like in the military. In a military operation, you're here today and later you want to get to this destination. How are you going to get there safely? Planning all the logistics, the danger areas, planning around those. They just related to each other in a way that just made sense for me. And this feeling of serving clients, serving others that's bigger than myself became kind of my calling, just as serving in the military was my calling.
Did you ever think your own retirement would be shared with our government? It's true. Your traditional 401k, IRA, pension, or similar retirement accounts are in partnership with the IRS. Simply put, they want their tax dollars, and you have them. With our latest tax calculator, you can plug in your own number while sitting at home. To find out what your future tax liability might be, scan the QR code or go to bulmantaxbill.com.
Welcome back to Your Financial Compass. I'm Kristen Oakley here with both Chris and Scott from Bulman Wealth Group. If you're just tuning in and joining us, we are discussing today the great wealth transfer. The fact that it's estimated that $84 trillion will be passing from the baby boomer generation on down to Gen X and millennials as well. And whether you are the one who wants to pass on the legacy or you are the one who might be inheriting that wealth, we want to share with you some of the implications and ways that you can be best prepared to manage and preserve your wealth. Because really that's what this is all about at the end of the day, right?
Yeah. One thing that we see a lot when it comes to this, Chris referenced this a little bit earlier in the show, is some kind of this communication gap when it comes to, let's just say the parents, and they've amassed this wealth and the kids have no idea. We know our parents have money and they don't know how to broach the subject of explaining it to them. Like the parents, and I've had clients say, well, they're just gonna blow it. I don't want them to know how much I have because then they're just gonna not work, blah, blah, blah. There's nuance to that, but I always say it starts with communication. And one way that you could enter that scenario, if you're that parent kind of concerned about how your kids are going to spend the money if they inherit it, is maybe telling a story. Sean, one of the advisors, came up with this idea, is like explain the hard work that it took to build that money. Yes. Hey, we owned our own business, or we mortgaged our home, or all these things, to let them know how you built the wealth, the hard work behind it, and just the context behind it. Yes. And I think that may or may not help the person that's going to inherit it understand, wow, there's a legacy element. Mom and dad worked hard for it. It's not just all this money for me to blow on silliness. So sometimes it just helps to put some context of how that money was created. Right. And we expect you to be good stewards of it too. It's a blessing that we've left you, and we want it to be generational. So but it all starts with the communication, obviously.
Absolutely, and that's something that you help facilitate in your offices, and I think that that's a really powerful thing, because a lot of folks don't know how to have that conversation and are nervous to have it, but you make it so easy for families to come together that way.
Yeah, I mean, it comes up a lot. It comes up all the time, especially if you have a client that's in their, let's say, 70s or older.
Right.
We had one drop into the office just this week, and just concerned again. So here's one of the concerns that 70 and up people have. One of two things are happening with their children. Their children are successful, they're making more money than the parents ever did, and they have no worries. Or California is expensive.
Yes. Yep.
And they can't save money, they can't invest money, they don't have life insurance, they barely can buy a house because everything in California is so expensive. You graduate, you make $100,000 each. It's still difficult to start making inroads in California.
And to get ahead, yeah.
To get ahead. So so then they look at them and they think, well, you're not doing the right financial moves to get ahead. Well, it's really difficult. Yeah. So again, we can help to bridge that gap and maybe find the ways. Are they spending $20 a day at Starbucks, or the little things? And we have account minimums that we work with. Our typical client's going to have $500,000 or more. Some of us are $2 million or more. But we always work with the children and relatives of our clients. We don't turn them away.
Right.
And so if you're sitting there saying, well, we can't hit the account minimums, or I literally had someone come to us, $5 million client's daughter They sought out a financial advisor. The advisor said, I can't help you. You don't have enough.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Meanwhile, they're about to inherit $5 million.
Right.
And so they need a plan. They need help. And
Yes.
we want to make sure we're there for those people.
And I'm sure it's just as rewarding to help people then know how to manage and preserve that wealth that they've inherited, and that they, can set them up for success as
Absolutely,
well. So, for sure. Well, let's talk about the tax implications, because it can't be stressed enough that the reason this is really important for folks to plan for is because of some of the recent changes with the Secure 2.0 Act and the elimination of the stretch IRA provision. So real quickly, I would love for you to recap what we're talking about with that, and then we'll go through the tax bill calculator and allow folks to actually see some of these numbers for themselves.
Well, as a government, we can all agree is always has our best interest in mind. Let's introduce that first. All jokes aside, with the way the rules change is now, if a non-spouse, so say in this instance a child, is inheriting an IRA, instead of being able to stretch it out, as you referenced in the past, where
Over
they take
their lifetime,
over
right?
their lifetime, which could be decades, now they have a decade, literally have 10 years to liquidate this money. So quickly, you inherit $500,000, and you've got a 10-year window where you need to liquidate all that out, and it's all treated as taxable income on top of whatever else you might be earning.
Right. And so that creates huge implications for the beneficiaries who may be in their highest earning years. Now they've inherited a large sum of money. They have to liquidate that money within 10 years. That could jack them up into a significantly higher tax bracket as well. And nothing is worse, I think, when parents or aging relatives want to leave money to their loved ones and they think they're leaving a gift, and it is a gift, but you don't want to be inadvertently leaving a ticking tax time bomb. And so we have to look at the numbers to see what that could look like for folks, right?
Yeah, and this is just one situation. So sometimes when what we think we know is correct isn't actually correct, or another way of saying is you don't know what you don't know.
Right.
This is why you need to be working with a professional, because the laws are always changing.
Yes.
And it was just 10 years ago, we were doing presentations and educational workshops and dinners talking about stretch IRA and how you can invest properly so that you can take your RMDs, then your kids will get your IRA, then they can take RMDs for 40 years, then the grandkids, and we can make this last for generations.
Right.
And then boom, with a sign of a pen, that's gone.
Yeah,
And so, and that's not the only thing. There are a lot of
change
things.
again too, as you said.
Exactly.
Right.
And whether it's RMD age, whether it's full retirement age, whether it's Social Security, all these things continue to change, which is why you should be working with a professional, because what you think you know from a year ago, 5, 10 years ago, is probably not accurate. Estate planning, if you have a AB trust, those are gone. Like if you have an AB trust, if you did your trust in 2000, 2005, 2010, the laws changed. You don't need that anymore, and that's going to cause you tax problems for the future. So there's a lot of different things that you should be talking to a financial advisor about, an expert, so that they can get you up to date on all the changes that have happened.
For sure. Well, let's talk about this tax bill calculator. I know you guys have been getting a lot of traction. A lot of folks have been watching the show using this resource, but if you're new to us, we want to make sure that you are aware of this completely free resource that you can even take out your smartphone right now during the show, walk through it with us, and see what these numbers might look like for you and your situation. So here's the site for you, bwgtaxbill.com, or you can click on that QR code and it's going to take you over to a landing page, and we're going to put that up for you so you can see what it's going to look like. You're going to put in some very basic information, your name, your age, your email address, so that the report can be emailed directly to you, no strings attached. You're also going to put in how much money you have saved up in tax deferred accounts. Maybe it's a 401k, a 403b, whatever type of workplace retirement plan you may have, or traditional IRAs. You'll notice 2 sliders on the bottom. You can actually play around with your assumed tax liability if you want to see how the numbers could change there, as well as what the assumed growth rate is going to be on that bucket of tax deferred money. You're going to click submit, and then boom, side by side, you're going to see there on the left what the government's tax plan is for you if you do nothing, versus on the right, how much less you could pay in taxes if you are proactive and engage in some of these tax planning strategies that we talk about on this show. Then you're going to receive a detailed report emailed to you. This is just one of the 4 pages that will come to you. You can see the breakdown, see the numbers side by side. And I know, guys, that once folks see these numbers, they're going to want to reach out to you for help.
You beat me to it. I was going to say, there's a very good chance as you see those numbers and your eyes pop out of your head, the next best play, or the next place to go, would be to clicking on this QR code you'll see beneath me in just a moment, or call the phone number and you can let us know, oh my gosh, it told me I'm going to oh, $2 million in taxes. What's the disparity? What causes that? Where do we start? How do we start kind of attacking this? I'm 10 years away from needing this money. But again, it's just a catalyst, a conversation starter. And if that's the concern, if how you're going to have that conversation with your children and how they inherit it is a concern, or anything in the financial realm, then that's probably a good reason for you to call the number below, scan the QR code, and we can have a conversation and begin what we call our financial compass review.
Wonderful. Scott, Chris, thank you so much. To our viewers at home, that number to call to schedule your financial compass review, again, it's completely free. Why would you not schedule this important time to have this conversation? Call the number on the bottom of your screen, 888-970-4685, or again, you're welcome to scan that QR code and that will get you connected as well. We'll be back with more right after this.
Successful retirement to me is someone who doesn't have to worry about where their next paycheck's going to come from, where the income's going to come from. Are they going to run out of income? Are they going to run out of money? Are they going to meet their financial goals with respect to maybe they want to leave money to their children, maybe they want to leave money to a philanthropy or a university?
Being able to wake up and know the day is an open slate and not having to worry about things. Or say someone's going on a trip with family, they're going to the beach, and if the headline says, the market's down again or something, they're not concerned. Bulman Wealth has my back here. We've got a plan in place. My portfolio is set up in a way that concern is not there. All the pieces fit together like a puzzle. When that all fits together and you can see the peace of mind that gives families, that is a successful retirement.
As Americans, we strive for better, from a better house to a better career to a better life for our kids. Better has become the American way. But when it comes to your retirement, what does better mean to you? More income, a flexible lifestyle, better solutions? A better retirement begins with a plan. To get your complimentary written financial plan, call the number you see here. You only retire once. This is your opportunity to plan for better.
Welcome back to Your Financial Compass, where today we are discussing the great wealth transfer, the fact that $84 trillion is estimated to be passing on from the baby boomer generation on down to Gen X and to millennials. There's implications for no matter what side of the coin you fall on. With this transfer of wealth, we want you to be prepared successfully so that you can manage and protect your wealth. I'm curious, we talked a lot in the last segment about the tax risk associated with this great wealth transfer. What are some other potential risks that our viewers need to be aware of?
Another risk that it's easy to fly under the radar is incorrect beneficiary designation.
Yes.
You might say you've been divorced, and a lot of times we've seen people with old accounts, an old 401k or what have you account, and it's like, oh my gosh, my ex-wife or my ex-husband's still the beneficiary, and I don't want them to get a dime. Or it's designated to an old charity or university, or you just want it doesn't reflect your current wishes. Like,
right.
I set that up 20 years ago, I'd feel totally different now. So just being aware of the beneficiary designations. Who is this money designed to go to, and is it in concurrent with your wishes at this point?
Yes, and I'm a stickler on this. I know you all are too, because there's a misconception out there. People think, well, it's correct in my will, so isn't that enough? The problem is whoever's listed as the beneficiary, that will always trump whatever the will says. So you have to make sure.
Yeah, they won't even look at the will.
They won't.
It's specific to the beneficiary. And it's important also to make sure that your trust is up to date.
Yes.
And if you're in California, if you have any wealth at all, over 160, 180,000, you should have a trust, because it's going to go through probate. And then the expenses, the fees rack up.
The time.
The time, over a year to 2 years to get through
And it's a matter
probate.
of public record as well. Very messy.
It's a mess. So
yeah.
we've seen it both ways. I've had people call me and say, hey, we've been meaning to get in, but now my father passed away, and my brother's true story, a drug addict, and he wasn't supposed to get any. My dad didn't want him to get any. Now he's going to get half of a $3 million estate, and we know he's just going to waste it all. There's nothing you can do at that point. It's going to go to you and your brother. So make sure that the trust is up to date, the beneficiaries are up to date. All of your qualified plans will have beneficiary listings. You can't believe how often people don't put a beneficiary at all. Or like Scott had mentioned, it's the wrong one. It's a past spouse, or it's a child that maybe has fallen out of connection with you or something. There's a lot of different things to look at, and we will look at all of those for you. So you can bring your trust in. We'll do a complete review of your trust, let you know if it needs to be updated. If you don't have a trust, you definitely want to call, and we need to get you set up with a trust. We can get trust turned around within 2 weeks, generally. So if you don't have a trust, if you don't have an estate plan, call us, let us help you with that. There's so many things that, just to clean up that, I think we talked about in several shows ago, the financial garage.
Right.
Sometimes you go out right now. If I go look at my garage 2 weeks ago, it was pristine. I go out now, 4 kids, each of them have
2 dead raccoons, a deer.
No, but 4 kids, they each have 8 pairs of shoes, and at least 4 of them are out. And so, which is 64 shoes or something. It can get out of control in a hurry.
Yep.
The same thing with your financial world, your financial garage. If you have old 401ks, IRAs, things like that, we need to get everything in the proper place so that you can pass it to the people that you want to pass it to with intention. We always say, if you let's say you have an area that you want to have a garden in, and you till it and it's all dirt, 2 things are going to happen. You either plant something and you grow what you plant, or you don't plant anything and weeds will grow. Something is going to grow.
Something will grow.
And so with your financial garage, with your legacy plan, we want to be intentional. We want the results to be what you want them to be, not to be whatever the government and anyone else says it should be.
Yes, because if you don't have a plan in place, we know that the government has one for you, and it's going to be in their best interest, not in your own. So again, that's why we are so passionate about sharing the tax bill calculator with you. Again, for the last time on today's show, you can visit bwgtaxbill.com, or you can click on that QR code. Again, you'll be able to see your numbers, that difference between the government's tax plan for you if you do nothing versus how much you could potentially save in taxes. But really, as we wrap up this great wealth transfer discussion, we said this earlier in the show, it's so much more than just money. This is a family affair. And I really appreciate that you guys care and have that compassion to bring families together rather than have this be something that divides people unnecessarily, right?
And it's so much more than Chris's baby blue eyes. So I had to mention that. But all jokes aside, it's just communication, clarity, understand. There's so much nuance. There's so many things. There's so much emotion that gets involved when it comes to money and it comes to inheritance and beneficiaries. And sometimes you want someone that is not related to you to help navigate through that, and that is an area and a role that we can potentially fill. And one of the ways to start to find out if that's the case is the number. Call that number. You can scan the QR code. You can go to the website, the tax bill one that Kristen referenced, and we can have a conversation.
Wonderful. Scott, Chris, thank you so much, and thank you for being here. We'll see you next time on Your Financial Compass.